This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein, Parshas Vayeira. So the beginning of the Parsha speaks about Avraham Avinu. It's on the third day of his Milah. And Avraham Avinu, Chazal say, is in great pain. The third day of the Milah, of course, is the most painful day. And the Pasuk says that he sees Archim. The only thing is, Rebbeinu Shem also came to visit him. So he has a conflict. Who does he pay attention to? Vayeira, Adai Shem, Imna matzasi chen be'einecha. If I have found favor in your eyes, Al no savar me'al avdecha, do not pass by. So the simple interpretation is, he's talking to his guests, and he's speaking to the master of the three, the middle one, the greatest among them, and he's saying, do me a favor, stop in by my house, don't just pass by my house. However, Rashi brings down a explanation, and it's from the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. Davar acher kodesh, that Avraham was not addressing his earthly guests, he was addressing the Rebbeinu Shalom. V'haya omer lahakadosh baruch hu lahamtin loi, he was waiting for the Rebbeinu Shalom to wait for him, ad sheyarotz v'yachnis es ha'orchim, until he runs and greets the guests. Rashi is bothered by Akasha. Then in Pasuk Beis it says Vayisa Einav Vayar Vinei Shlosh Anashim Nitzav Malav Vayar it's right. So he already went to the Archim. Why? After he already went to the Archim, would he be asking Hashem, wait for me to go to the Archim? He already went to the Archim. Says Rashi, no, the Psukim are out of order. And this is the Dar. The Torah does not speak in a sequence. It's not in a regular flow. What? It's not in a chronological order. Thank you. Shekasav acher vayaratzakrasim. Even though this pasuk of Vayeira, Hashem imna matzasichen be'einecha is written after vayaratzakrasim, ha'amira koydem lachen haisa. Pasuk Gimel comes before pasuk Beis. So in other words, imagine the scene. Avraham Avinu is basking in the glory of the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's in Makabel Pnei Ashchina, and some three people who Avraham Avinu thought were Arabs, to the point where Avraham Avinu has to ask them to wash the dust between their toes. But still, Avraham says, Rebbeinu Shalom, would you mind waiting? I have to greet Mohammed, Ahmadjad, and some other guy. And that's what happens. Says the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos. What do we see? Amar Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Gedoyla hachnosas orchim kahashkamas beis hamikdash. Right? Normally we say, Ein anu, ein ato yodea matan schar shel mitzvos. We don't always know. We don't usually know the reward of mitzvos. It's hard to evaluate. It's hard to establish which one is greater. Says Rabbi Yochanan, there are two mitzvahs that are equal. Hachnosas orchim is equal to coming early to the Beis Medrash to learn. Why? Because the Mishnah Masechta Shabbos is talking about a very interesting halacha. There's a halacha on Shabbos, not muktzah, something called tircha yisera. A person, there are certain things that, even though they're technically permitted, but if they involve excessive, strenuous effort, you can't do it. For example, if you have a lot of produce in a certain area and you want to clear the produce, right, in mefanin kelim, you can't clear out an area unless it's a dvar mitzvah. So the Mishnah says that you're allowed to clear out an area for guests, or to make a Beis Medrash. So the fact that it lists these two mitzvos, apparently that means these two mitzvos are of equal value. Diktani mipnei ha'archin or mipnei bittul Beis HaMedrash. For avdimi minei harda amar yoiser me'ashkamas Beis HaMedrash. Greeting guests is greater than coming early to shul. Why? Because the Mishnah says you're allowed to clear your house out of produce, not only for guests, but even for a Beis Medrash. Now, if a Beis Medrash was a bigger mitzvah than guests, then it's a smaller chiddush. The fact that it says for guests and even for a Beis Medrash means a Beis Medrash is less of a mitzvah than guests. So we see from here, greeting guests is more important than going to the Beis Medrash. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Gedoyla hachnasas archen me'akbalas me'ashchina. Greeting guests is greater not only than going to the Beis Medrash, greater than greeting the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. Chesed, Vayeira, Hashem, imna matzasichen be'einecha, al na sa'avar. Okay, so you see from here, if you had the option of either hosting the Shekhinah or hosting 3 guests, greeting guests is a greater mitzvah even than greeting the Shekhinah. So the Vilna Gaon wants to know, maybe they're equal, and Avraham Avinu was just saying, since they're equal, let me try to do both. So Rabbi Hashem, you just wait, and I'm going to do something that's equal, and this way I'll chaperine both, right? Shkulenheim v'yavayu shneim, as they say. So says the Vilna Gaon, wait a second. The halacha is that when you take leave of your Rebbe, you don't say, okay, bye Rebbe, and then turn your back on him. No. When you take leave of your Rebbe, you have to walk out backward. Right? Rav Hutner was very makbid that the Talmidim accord that type of kavanat Torah. So,
Rebbe, if the Portuguese shul walk in bowing and they walk out backwards bowing.
Okay,
it's something
good.
Beautiful to see.
Right, a lot of people when they walk out of shul, many people they walk out in a backward manner. But here it's not only in a base medrash, even a Rebbe, you walk out facing the Rebbe, you don't turn your back to the Rebbe. So now says the Gra, just imagine Avraham Avinu was talking to Ribbon Shalom, and now the Orchim are coming over there, and the pasuk says Vayeira likrosam. Now you can't run backward. No. He's not a cornerback, right? You can't run backward. Vayeira likrosam means he had to run toward Ribbon Shalom. That means
because Ruach is everywhere.
But the Shekhinah is called, there's a concept, the Shekhinah is called Be'asara Shekhinah Sharia, or Rabban Hashem is Lamala Me'rosh HaChoyle. We mean the Rosh Hashem's everywhere, but there's a concept that the Shekhinah has designated, if we could say such a thing, right? Called Be'asa. There's a concept, Shekhinah Lamala Me'rosh Hashem Shel Choyle. We mean the Rosh Hashem was Mavaka Choyle. He was there anyway, he was there before. So there is some kind of, this is what the Vilna Gaon says. The fact that Avraham ran toward the Orchim and
the song like Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere.
Yeah, but that's according to the Baal Tanya, but the Gra rejects that. You should know. Yes, the Gra and Sefer Yeshaya, and the main you should know. The main machlokes between Chasidim and the Snagdim, between the Gra and the Baal Tanya, is do we passing like Uncle Moshe that Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is really everywhere? No. Seriously, the Gra says no. The Gra says no. The Gra says Hashem's not here, Hashem's there, Hashem's everywhere. There are places that maybe Hashem would prefer not to be. So, and Rav Shimon, that was the essential machlokes. Rav Shimon Schwab writes that this machlokes goes way back. Machlokes between the malachim. Do we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh? Hashem says Miloi Kol Haaretz Kavod? Or do we say Baruch Hashem, Baruch Kavod Hashem Mimakoymai? It's machlokes malachim.
You know.
Anyway, but that's a separate time. Yeah.
The Soloveitchik has a purest on that.
Yeah.
One is before the Churban, one is after the Churban.
Okay.
Then the Shekhinah was nostalgic because of the Churban.
Okay.
Before it was there, like Holiest.
Says the Vilna Gaon that the fact that Avraham Avinu turned his back to Ribbon Shalom and ran toward the guest, that shows Gedoyla Hachnasas Archim Yoiser Mehakbalas Pnei Shechina. Yeah, okay. So here's the question. The question is like this: we learned from Avram that here's some more sheets. We learned from Avram that Hachnasas Archim is greater than Kabbalas Pnei Shechina. But how did Avram know? Who told Avram? Yeah, who told Avram? So we have a very interesting sefer. The sefer Tairas Emes, by Rav Nosson Adler. Rav Nosson Adler, the Rebbe L'chsam sefer. He says like this: we know that Avraham is B'gematria Reish Mem Ches 248 because Avraham was so in sync with the Ratzon of Hashem that his Evarim naturally were inclined to do Hashem's will. That's why by the Akedah, when he was about to Shech Yitzchak, the pasuk says, "Vayishlach yada." He had to send out his hand. Why didn't he send out his hand? Why didn't his hand naturally do it? Because that wasn't the Ratzon of Hashem. Because Hashem really just told him, "V'ha'aleo," bring him up. So Avraham had to send his hand because this was something that was not the Ratzon of Hashem. So Avraham knew what the Ratzon of Hashem was from what he did. It's almost like his Evarim were naturally drawn. He reached the Madrega where his body was naturally drawn to do the Ratzon of Hashem.
Is it possible to go against Ratzon Hashem?
Is it possible? It's possible. Everyone has free will, sure.
If Hashem doesn't want it, he won't be able to do anything.
If Hashem allows you to go against His Ratzon. Anytime a person does an Aveira, Hashem doesn't want the person to do the Aveira, but He allows. That's the concept of Bechira. It says of Nassan Adler, look in the Pasuk, it's Pasuk Beis in the Parsha. Vayisa Einav Vayar. V'hinei shloisha anoshim nitzavim alav. Vayar. Vayaratz l'krasam. Why does it say Vayar 2 times? It says of Nassan Adler. Vayisa Einav Vayar. He saw them. Vayaratz l'krasam. Why did he run to them? Because he did. Because he's Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu always naturally runs to do the Ratzon Hashem. Vayar, when he realized that he was running to the Archim and away from Hashem, who had come to visit him, from there he realized, Gadol ha'achnasas Archim yosef b'nei Ashchina. In other words, how did Avraham know? He knew it from what he did.
Functional.
It says Vayar 2 times. The first Vayar is he saw with his physical eyes. The second Vayar, says Rav Nassan Adler, was Lashon Havana. He understood from what he did that Yafeh Asa. Now that's a very high madrega. I don't think too many people in history were ever on such a level, but Avraham Avinu, that's the concept, Ramach Ivarim. Chazal say that his eyes, his ears, did not even see or hear something improper. They didn't function for that. He was in complete mastery of all of his Evar. Okay.
That seems to contradict that principle.
Okay, what's the mitzvah of Hachna?
He's still possible.
No, but he's not always sick with mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Kabbalas Ne'eshchina. Which one of the Taryag mitzvahs is that?
He's also sick in
which mitzvah is that?
We just said it's a mitzvah. We just said one's a mitzvah, they're both mitzvahs. We just said that.
No, I didn't say that. Okay. Okay. Oh, one second. Let's see. The Medrash tells us, the Yalkut Shimoni says to Avraham Avinu, and let's just get a little picture for a moment, what Avraham Avinu was giving up in order to be Mekayim Achnasas Archim. Because this is not just Stam, Kabbalas Pnei Ashchina. The Yalkut Shimoni says in number 6, Amar Alei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ad Shaloi Malta, before Avraham Avinu's Mila, Hayu B'nei Adam Arelim Ba'anetzlecha. You know who used to visit you? Arelim, uncircumcised people. Achshav, but now, Ani Upalmalya Shali Niglin Alacha. We're all coming to you. You are about to receive the greatest event, the biggest group of guests, the most prestigious group of guests that anyone ever visited anyone. You're about to experience that. Hadu Desiva Yisena Vayar V'nei Shlosh Anot Vayar Trei Zimni Vayar B'Shchina Vayar B'Malachim. So Avraham Avinu is not only giving up his greeting of the Rebbeinu Shalom, he's giving up Rebbeinu Shalom V'chol Pamalya Shamayla. And you say, well, again, he's not doing a mitzvah. What exactly is he giving up? What's he involved in? What kind of experience is that? Well, the Netziv writes that at that moment, Avraham Avinu was completely immersed in the mitzvah of Avas Hashem. Can you imagine being in such close proximity to Rebbeinu Shalom, how Avraham Avinu's soul was aflame in this experience, and he gave up Avas Hashem, aside from the fact that everybody knows that the greatest tainug, the greatest pleasure available to a human being or to anyone is L'hisaneg al Hashem, to bask in the glory of the Shekhinah. So Avraham Avinu is now giving up the greatest pleasure any human being has had or will ever experience, to greet these 3 Araber, right? These three Arabs. And says the Netziv, it's also a mitzvah sasei dairai, so that Avraham Avinu was occupied in of the Ahavta es Hashem lekecha, and nevertheless he gives it up.
Right.
So you don't say oisik mitzvah pater min mitzvah. You say you don't have to do mitzvahs the whole day, because I sit here, I'm pater. Avas Hashem, Avas Hashem, Avas Hashem. But you don't have to do mitzvahs the whole day. You don't say oisik mitzvah pater is when you're oisik in the mitzvah, not when you're.
He was oisik.
Well, there's no asek in it. There's no Avas Hashem is not a mitzvah that exempts you from other mitzvahs.
It's an experience. It's not an oisik.
It's a.
If you love Hashem, go do a mitzvah.
It's a co-requisite.
Right? We don't say oisik mitzvah pater min mitzvah by a Talmud Torah. So. You say, somebody comes, can you do me a favor? No, I'm in the middle of doing the mitzvah of Emunah. Right? You can't. You don't say, Oisik mitzvah, Patron mitzvah, those type of mitzvahs. Okay, so the question really is that what is going on over here? Avraham Avinu is giving up Kabbalas Pnei Shechina to greet 3 guests. Says in Michtam Eliyahu, page 180 to 181, Chelek Beis, V'udavar to Matmiya. Isn't it a Chil Hashem? You say, B'nai Shalom, just wait a second, right? It's like you get a phone call. Please hold. Chutzpah. You're calling me, and you're telling me to hold? Right? You ever get these phone calls? Please hold. So Avraham Avinu is saying, B'nai Shalom, please hold. I have very important business. And these guys who have to have their toes cleaned out, Avraham Avinu is taking care of these guys. He's washing their feet, and he's telling B'nai Shalom, wait. Isn't it a Chil Hashem?
Well, if you're already asking this, then how did the Malachim interrupt Avraham talking to Hashem if they knew that he was talking to him? Where's the cover over there?
Who says they knew?
They were not interrupting him. He interrupted them. They were walking on
They didn't. They're walking.
He was talking to
they're walking. He didn't. They didn't want to stay. They said no thanks. They said no thanks. We're going on our way. So Michtam Eliyahu says maybe this is a situation of Eis Lasso, Eis Lashem, Efiru Tarasecha. The same way you're allowed to write down Torah Shabbat Peh, so you could interrupt your supernatural experience to greet guests. But that's hard to understand. That's the actual explanation for why it's permitted to greet guests and interrupt your experience with Rebbeinu Shalom. Let's come to another question here. Okay, let's take a look in number 11 for a moment. Everybody knows that what's the halacha if all of a sudden you get a call from your friend. I'm 15 blocks down, my car broke down, I need help changing a tire. And you're in a shiur. You help him or you don't help him? Well, what's a bigger mitzvah? Torah or Chesed? Torah. Talmud Torah K'neged Kulam. Now, if the guy has AAA, right? Or Chaver, if someone else could help the guy, then you're not allowed to interrupt your learning to help them. You're not allowed to. You don't have to. You're not allowed to. If no one else could help them, then you have to interrupt. You're not learning then. They're talking about a guy is walking on the road, he's not learning, and no one else could do it. But if you're in the middle of learning, and someone else could do it, then someone else should do it. That's halacha. It's Gepaskin and Shulchan Aruch that is something that's efshar yidei acherim, you can't interrupt. So let's say a guy is sitting and learning. Should you say, oh, I wish somebody would call me on the phone who has no one else to help them change their tire so I could get up and interrupt my learning? That would be quite odd. You should be happy that Baruch Hashem you have this chus to be able to. You don't have to. So here's Avraham Avinu. It's the 3rd day of his milah, but still, Avraham Avinu was mekayim kol Torah kula before it was given. He's mastama. He's learning, and the Chafetz Chaim writes beferish in a footnote in the Avos Chesed. Avraham Avinu was certainly learning in all of his spare time, and it's so hot that no orchim could come. And Rashi says, Avram was mitztayer that there are no orchim. Why is he mitztayer there are no orchim? Baruch Hashem, there are no orchim, so he could learn. He's mitztayer that there are no. Imagine, would anyone say, "Oh, I love to be mavaker chayla. Oh, I'm so sorry. There are no people on the chaylam list today because I have nobody to visit." Right? Imagine, I love to do Rachman Nichum Avelem. Oh, they're crazy. So why would Avraham Avinu, he's mitztayer that no Baruch Hashem, nobody needs a meal. Why is he mitztayer that there are no orchim? First of all, it's a hot day, nobody's outside. First of all, you should be happy, nobody needs it. Number two, now he could learn. And what's the whole inyan over here? It's a hot day, but Avraham Avinu is upset. So Avraham Avinu is upset, so make it not hot. You make it hot, nobody could come out. Now Avraham is upset. So Rebbeinu Shalom's hands are tied, so he has to send malachim. So take the sheath off the sun, right? Actually, put it back. make it a normal day, let the temperature drop from 130 to 70, and then people will come. What's this whole thing? Rabbi Hashem makes it too hot for people, so now no Arachim could come. Now Avram's upset, so Hashem has to send Malachim. Isn't there a much simpler way out? Malachim don't usually come to people's houses to eat, because Chazal even say that in this situation, don't think the Malachim didn't eat, even though Malachim don't eat. In this case, Malachim ate. The covet of Avraham Avinu. So here what Rabbi Hashem has to do? He has to make a nace, make it too hot. Then Avram's upset, Hashem has to make another nace to send Malachim. Food-eating, tongue-eating Malachim, bread-eating Malachim, water-drinking Malachim. Just send people. Okay, so now Avraham Avinu has people to feed. Avraham Avinu has 3 guests who he thinks are Bnei Adam. And Avraham Avinu had a very simple solution. You know what he could have done? Oh, you're hungry? Let me give you some what? Sarah! Get the water out of the fridge. I think there's some peanut butter in the pantry. And make him 3 peanut butter sandwiches. No. You have to shecht 3 cows. Why? Because he wants to give each Arab tongue. And let me ask you something. If one Arab would have gotten tongue and the other one got spare ribs, they also would have enjoyed very much. No. Spare ribs is not as good as tongue. So now we have to kill 3 cows. Imagine if Peter found out that Avraham Avinu killed 3 cows just to give 3 pieces of tongue. Why so much chesed? Avraham Avinu doesn't have better things to do. It definitely took up time from his learning. And it's not Baal Tashchis. What do you do with the rest of the cow?
Put in the freezer.
Put in the freezer, yeah.
I mean, isn't that overboard? If you would, let me ask you something. If you would see today, no, real, this is a serious question. Imagine if a collector, a nebuch, was sitting in front of a shul, and you would see the Rav of the shul go into his house, go into Wasserman's, buy baby lamb chops, cook it up, roast it up, and the finest delicacies, and put down, after 3 hours of preparing this meal, put down a fancy meal with fine wine in front of this guy. Would you even think that this is normal? I don't think so. Just imagine, if a gadol today would do it, we would think it's, what are you doing? The guy's hungry, give him $10 to go get a good meal in the pizza store. What was Avraham Avinu doing even? What was he doing? Is this a regular thing to do? Would you consider a reasonable thing to do? Would you do this? A cow is an expensive thing. With mustard?
This is Minbakar.
So it was tender. It was tender.
It wasn't a cow, it was a young
cow. Still a cow. Okay. The Gemara says, Masechta Bava Metzia, then the schar, whatever Avraham Avinu did by himself, so Rebbe Hashem paid back Klal Yisrael himself. Whatever Avraham did, Aydei Shliach, the Rebbe Hashem sent payment through a shliach. So, for example, Avraham Avinu ran to the cow. The Rebbe Hashem gave Klal Yisrael the slav. Avraham Avinu said, "Here, take butter and milk." Hashem gave us the man. Avraham Avinu stood over the guests. By the way, you want to hear something amazing? The Balei Tosfos say, "V'hu oimed aleihem tachas ha'etz." So we read that to mean Avraham Avinu waitered them under the tree. Listen to what I think the Moshe Zaken in the Balei Tosfos says. V'hu oimed aleihem, he stood over them. Tachas ha'etz, there was no tree. So Avraham Avinu, who was a tall man, he hovered over them to protect them from the sun.
Give them the shade.
Tosfos says that. So imagine a gadol of Yisrael taking some schnar and saying, "Oh, I want you to be comfortable." So imagine he's like blocking out the sun so this guy can have a comfortable meal.
What do you think he meant to the tent? What's the problem?
You got to ask your wife. You can't just.
So
what? That was the story. It's Kasha Namaisa, why he didn't take them in the Torah, right? But that's what he did. And could someone explain to me? Because Avraham Avinu... because Avraham Avinu gave bread... Listen to what the Medrash says. The Medrash, look at number 14. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Avram. Ata amarta yukachna ma'at mayim. I'm going to pay back Klal Yisrael chayach shani parei levanech ba'midbar uvayishuv v'la'aseh lavai. You gave water to the Archim, so Klal Yisrael had water in the Midbar for 40 years. You gave water to the Archim, Klal Yisrael has water in Eretz Yisrael for thousands of years. You gave water to the Archim, la'aseh lavai, there'll be water in Yerushalayim. You told them to wash your feet. I washed the Yidden in the Midbar. I washed them in Eretz Yisrael, and I'll wash their Averos la'aseh lavai. You told them to sit under the tree. I will protect Klal Yisrael with Ananei covered for 40 years. They'll be Zoicha to the mitzvah of Sukkah. La'aseh lavai, I'll protect them ba'olam haba. Could someone explain to me, because Avram gave a little water to an Arab, therefore Klal Yisrael gets water for 40 years? Is that Midah Keneged Midah? Measure for measure? He just gave water to an Arab. So why is Klal Yisrael, this is such an eternal mitzvah, this is such a monumental mitzvah? How do we understand this? Why is Avraham so nitzta'er that he can't serve the Archim? Why does he go so almost overboard for these guests? And why is this so valuable in the eyes of Hashem? Ask you another question. Avraham Avinu was the greatest Baal Chesed. Yeah? Avraham Avinu was the Semel of Chesed, the greatest Baal Chesed. And Tehillim, Parak Peites, which was a chapter written by Avraham Avinu, number 20, Maskil le'esan ha'ezrachi, chazdei Hashem olam ashira. Avraham Avinu was makir the Chesed of Hashem. Fine. That means Avraham Avinu probably specialized in many forms of Chesed. He was great at Bikur Chaylim. He was great at Hachnasas Kala. He was great at lending money. He was great at Hachnasas Archim. He was great at many forms of Chesed. Is there anywhere in the Torah where the Torah says, Avraham Avinu heard someone was sick, so you know what he did? He called the guy up. He said, I'll be over right away. And then Avraham Avinu ran as fast as he could to the sick man, and he ran up the stairs, and he brought flowers, and he swept, and he said, I hope you feel better, and he was mispalel. No, there's no description anywhere in the Torah, the Bikur Chaylim of Avraham Avinu. You find anywhere in the Torah about any other form of Chesed of Avram? No, even though I'm sure he excelled at all of them. Why dafka, by the mitzvah of Hachnasas Archim, is the Torah marech so much? Why, of all the forms of Gemilas Chesed, you look in the Sefer Avas Chesed of the Chavetz Chaim, he explains many different categories of Chesed. Why does the Torah choose Davka Hachnasas Archim as the example of how to describe the details of that mitzvah? Yeah? Okay. So let us begin. What we're going to learn today is a very fundamental area of Avodas Hashem. We come to the Maral. Look at number 9. The Maral explains, why is greeting guests greater than going to shul? Says Maral, you know what it means that greeting guests is greater than going to shul? We know the purpose of a mitzvah is for a person to become ruchni, to become spiritual, to do devarim elokim, godly things. It is more godly to greet your friend than it is to go to shul. You know why? Because your friend is created in the image of the Ribbono Shel Olam. So there's nothing that we have in this world closer to the Ribbono Shel Olam than your friend. What do you mean? In the shul there's a Sefer Torah? No! Sefer Torah is the Devar Hashem. But your friend is the Tzelem Elokim. He looks like the Ribbono Shel Olam. So greater than, my Gemara. No, more important than your Gemara is your friend. So says Mara, but wait a second. That's nice. But how about when it's my friend or the Ribbono Shel Olam? Because the Gemara says, Gedoyla hachnasas archim yoiser mekabalas pnei hashchina. So now you're telling me it's greater to greet my friend than it is to greet Ribbono Shel Olam? Says Maral, what do you mean greet the Ribbono Shel Olam? You see him? You don't see him. Lo yirani ha'adam b'chai. You don't see him. Elamai the Shechina is here in some dimension. You look at your friend, you see the Ribbon Shalom. He's Tzelem Elokim. The image of your friend is more like Hashem, is more a Davar Eloki than the Shechina itself. Because you don't see the Shechina. No one's eyes could see the Shechina. The Shechina is not something you could see. Lo Yerani Adam B'chai. Your friend's appearance is the closest thing you have to Atzmius of Hashem than the Shechina itself. By the way, Chafetz Chaim Paskins, Halacha, look at number 10, that if you're on your way to shul and guests come, now guest does mean not some you bump into someone on the street. Guest means someone comes off the airplane, they don't have somewhere to stay. A guest is not someone who you decide to invite at Shachris time. A guest is you happen to be leaving your house and you have guests from Eretz Yisrael coming. And they come at that time. So what should you do? Halach l'maisa, Chafetz Chaim writes, you gotta take them in, you gotta greet them warmly, you have to, don't say, oh, make yourself at home, I'll be back in 45 minutes after Shachris. I'll do that. Says the Chafetz Chaim, again, that's only if there's no one at home who could greet them properly. If your wife, if your family could bring in the guests in an appropriate manner, so then let them do it, and then you'll go to shul. But if they're not able to do that, then halach l'maisa, Chafetz Chaim says, we learn, this is not just a hashkafa, it's a halacha. That bottom line, if guests come at that time, and you're needed to greet them properly, then you do that, you go daven later. Okay.
So what you're saying is that in Shachris time it's much better to stand outside the shul and greet every person.
No, they're not your guests. They're not your guests. They're not your guests. Hachnas asarchem.
He's a shechina. Every person is a shechina in it.
No, only. So the Maral says it's only if you see him before, you see him all the time, so you already know that shechina. You already got it. You got it already. It's only panim chadashos.
That's early in the morning. You didn't see him that day.
You saw him yesterday. You remember. You didn't forget. You know what he looks like, right? The Maral says it's only panim chadashos. Okay, but we're okay. So now we come to one more idea, and then we're going to try to explain this. In the inyan of children, this is one inyan where people look for segulais. People look for segulais to be zaycha, to have children. Many of the segulais have no makar at all. There is a segula found in Chazal that the Chafetz Chaim says is the most documented, established, authentic segula for banim, and that is the mitzvah of hachnas asarchem. Why? It's a Medrash Tanchuma, look at number 17. L'chol mitzvah u'mitzvah le'nizkar matan schara. Every mitzvah, the schar is not mentioned. Kagon kibbut avayim, v'shulcha kein shekasa b'hen arichas yamim. V'yesh mitzvah shematan schara banim. There are mitzvahs that the schar is children. Kamay Sarah she'ercha es ha'archem. Sarah hosted guests, and the Shunamis, she hosted Elisha, and in this week's Parsha, and in this week's Haftarah, 2 people hosted guests, and there was Eicha to have children. And in fact, the Chafetz Chaim brings down in the Avos Chesed that someone who accustoms themselves in this mitzvah, it's a skula for banim. It is not stam a skula, it's a skula found in Chazal, and you see it in the Chumash itself. You see, Avraham hosts the guests, they tell him the good news. The Isha Shunamis has Elisha, they tell her the good news. And even though we don't understand Darchei Hashem, but maybe could we explain a little bit why is it that the only mitzvah of the 613 mitzvahs that we find befirish like this, that one is zoichet to banim is hachnas asarchem? What's the explanation? Okay. And now we come to the mitzvah of chesed. We perhaps may think that the mitzvah of chesed is, be a nice guy. So the first thing we have to debunk that notion. Chesed has nothing to do with being a nice guy. It's good to be a nice guy also, it's still a good thing. But you say, okay, maybe it's, Hashem wants me, that when I see somebody who needs something, I should try to help them. Yeah, Hashem does want you to try to help them, but it has nothing to do with chesed. That's not the mitzvah of chesed. So what's the mitzvah of chesed? So you have to know where the mitzvah of chesed comes from. That if you look around the world and you try to study who the Ribbon Shalom is, well, we know certain things about the Ribbon Shalom. He has certain mitzvahs. Pasuk says in Tehillim, he has certain midos. Oyhev tzedakah. Ribbon Shalom loves tzedakah. Ribbon Shalom is mishpat. He loves mishpat. But there's one thing that is obvious and blatant in the world. Chesed Hashem Mala Ha'aretz. It doesn't say tzedakah Hashem, mishpat Hashem, din Hashem. The one thing that if your eyes are open, you'll see that this world is full of chesed. So where is it? Show me the money. Oh, he's showing. Right now, you could see, yeah? Could you see only close distance, like this camera, or you could see miles? You could see up to the moon. You could see up to the moon. You see in color or only black and white? See in color. And what would have been so bad if you saw in black and white? Black and white, it's not the same. It makes a nafkamina. It's better. It's more enjoyable. Okay. Do you have automatic zoom, or you have to like push a button on your head to zoom in on something? No, it's automatic. Where do all the pictures go? You have like a file cabinet at home that stores the billion? No. I have a disk smaller than anything they have today that stores every picture I ever saw. Chip, right? Hashem could have made that you eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and supper, a little pill. Every morning you take it, you're full until lunch, you're full until... No, Rebbe Hashem created how many types of food? How many types of drinks? Sweet, salty, crunchy, mushy. There are unlimited choices. Unlimited choices. Today I wear this, tomorrow I wear something else. The Chesed of Hashem, if your eyes are open, fills the whole world. It's predominant. Now the Rebbe Hashem doesn't want you to feel like He's giving it to you, so He sort of disappears. And you just take it, and you're not embarrassed, because you don't even realize that there's a benefactor. Because if you would see all the Chesed Rebbe Hashem is giving you every second. I remember I hurt myself on Simchas Torah. I was very upset, because on Simchas Torah night, I wrenched my back. I was in such pain, I didn't think... I couldn't move my fingers. Baruch Hashem, someone got me a really heavy painkiller. I was able to get out of bed. But during the night, I was in such terrible pain. I couldn't squeeze. I hurt my back. I couldn't squeeze my hand. And I'm thinking, what? This is not fun. Why is this? Why? Okay, it should be a kapara, right? But I realized it's a big chesed. Because 3 days later, when I was able to come out of bed, really, every footstep I took, I was very happy. Baruch Hashem, I could walk. Every footstep is a chesed. Every breath is a chesed. Every heartbeat is a chesed. And at this moment, how many chasadim is Rebbe Hashem doing for you? Billions of chasadim. Endless. Chesed Hashem Mala Haaretz. And Avraham Avinu was makir this. Because we find that Avraham Avinu in Parak Peites of Tehillim, Maskil Esan Hoazrachi. Maskil means he comprehended. It hit him. He understood. He had a flash of lightning. Chasdei Hashem Olam Ashira. I will forever sing the kindness of Hashem. Ki Amarti. You know what I say to myself? Olam Chesed Yibane. The world is built on Chesed. Now, you should know that Victor Miller said, he heard from his Rabbi Isaac Sher, that why did Hashem create the world? To give us the greatest Chesed in the world. The greatest chesed is not to drink water, even though it's a very big chesed. Water is great. Nothing like a cup of water. Even though breathing is a very big chesed. Seeing is a very big chesed. But that's not why Hashem created us for the ultimate chesed. And that's Olam Haba. Olam Haba is lehisaneg al Hashem. If a person does mitzvahs, he is zoicha lehisaneg al Hashem. Shezehu ha'tainug ha'amiti v'ha'idin ha'gadol mikol ha'idunim sheyicholim limatzei. Rebbe Hashem created us for chesed. That's why He made us. Rebbe Hashem. Now you'll say, "Oh, it's a good thing Hashem made us because before He put us in this world, we were suffering so terribly, and He saved us." No, He didn't. We weren't here. We didn't exist. So now listen carefully. Hashem created the world. Why? To give us chesed. Did we have a need? And then Hashem said, oh, I feel so bad for you. Let me give you eyesight. Let me give you a heart. Let me give you oil haba. No, we didn't need anything. We weren't here. Hashem was such a big Baal Chesed that He created us in order to do Chesed. You hear? It's not that Hashem saw miserable human beings and Hashem said, oh, let me have Rachmanis on you. So I'm gonna give you food. I'm gonna feed you. No. Hashem created us in order to do Chesed to us. Now that's a very different kind of Chesed. Most of us think of Chesed as what? If you see someone with a need, you try to provide for them. No, that's not what Rebbeinu Shalom did. He created Adam Kidei Lahetiv. Now we know that one of our most important objectives in this world is to emulate the ways of Hashem. V'halachta b'drachav. Right? To emulate Him, to imitate Him. Pasuk says in Devarim Chav Ches Tes, look at number 23. Yekimcha Hashem loy la'am kadosh, kasher nishmalach, ki sishmar es mitzvahs Hashem lekecha, v'halachta b'drachav. You should walk in the ways of Hashem. You should walk in the ways of Hashem. By the way, there's another pasuk that says in Uvaysid Bakun. Uvaysid Bakun. You should cling to Him. And the Gemara in Saita says on Daf Yadalit Amar Aleph, Amar Reb Chama Reb Chanina Ma'idich Siv Acharei Hashem Lekeichem Telechu V'chiev Shor Loi LaAdam Lahalech Achar Shechina. Could you go after the Shechina? But the Rebbeinu Shalom is an Eish Oichla. No, what it means is follow His midos. Just like Rebbeinu Shalom is Malbish Arumim, you should be Malbish Arumim. You see people need clothing, you should help them out. Not because you feel bad for them. You should feel bad for them also. But don't give people clothing just because you feel bad for them. If that's your sole motivation, you have not fulfilled Chesed B'miluai. You clothe people because you want to emulate Hashem. If you see someone who's ill, you don't visit them because, if I don't visit them, then he's going to be angry at me. Or I feel bad for him. You visit him because Rebbeinu Shalom visited Avraham Avinu and you want to be like the Rebbeinu Shalom. When you go to a levaya, the Iker Machshava should be, Rebbeinu Shalom buried Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm emulating the ways of Hashem. If you Chas v'Shem have to go to Nichem Avelim, Rebbeinu Shalom was Menachem Avelim. That is Chesed B'milui. That's the halachta b'drachav. That should be the main kavana when a person does chesed. By the way, there's another pasuk. Yeah? Zeh keli v'yanveu, the Gemara darshans, ani v'hu. Mahu rachum, afato rachum. Mahu chanun, afato chanun. By the way, I heard in the name of Rav Asher Weiss, Shlita, that why do I need two Gemaras, two drashas? One is, Achrei Hashem lekeichem telechu, of halachta b'drachav, Mahu malbish arumim afato hey tehei malbish arumim mahu kaiver mesim. That's one drasha, and you have another drasha mahu chanun afato chan mahu racham afato racham. Why do I need two gemaras? Why do I need a gemara in Saita Yadalid and Shabbos Kuf Chav Gimel? It's the same drasha. Be like Hashem. Okay, there are two dimensions of being like Hashem. There are the acts of Hashem, and then there are midos of Hashem. Right. You could have a guy that clothes every arum, that's menachim every avel, that's cover every mesim, but in his midos and on his inside, he's lacking in the midah. He does the maisa, but he's not doing it with the rachmanos and with the feelings that Rebbeinu Shalom does it. So it's necessary to say it's not enough just to be malbish harumim like Hashem. You have to be racham v'chanun like Hashem. And if we would just say just be racham v'chanun, you could have a lot of guys that have rachmanim v'chanunim. But when their friends are sick, they have a lot of rachmanis, but they still don't go visit because they can't get it together and go visit. So you need to emulate Hashem both b'midoisav and b'masav. Very beautiful explanation. Okay, but basically, Avraham Avinu looks at the world and he sees Rebbeinu Shalom did not have to create a world. He created the world to do Chesed. What's the Chesed? Chesed is not only in Olam Haba, and it's important to be makir the Chesed of Hashem. Now, Victor Miller wrote in his tzava, he told his family, don't cry for me. I lived a very happy life. I ate 3 meals a day. I had clothing. I had a bed. I had a house. I enjoyed myself, Olam Hazeh. Now, his and Halavai, we should be on the Madriga, that we enjoy the minimal amounts of things that Rebbeinu Shalom gives us. But that's part of the chesed. Hashem created us to get chesed oil mazeh and be'ikr ba'il ma'aba. So Avraham Avinu thinks to himself, if I want to fulfill chesed b'miluai, it's not enough just, oh, I see someone who needs something, I feel bad for him, let me provide. Avraham Avinu is saying that how can I emulate Hashem in the highest sense? I want to do chesed even before there's anybody who needs anything. It's a hot day. Avraham says, perfect opportunity to emulate Hashem. On this day, that no one's coming outside and nobody needs anything, I am going to emulate Hashem by engendering a desire to do chesed even before I see the need. And Avraham Avinu says, and what kind of chesed does Hashem do? Well, Hashem, think of us. What are we? We're basar v'dam. The Rebbe Shalom wastes his time by providing us with, imagine how many different types of meals did you have this year? Chas v'shalom, if someone would serve you the same meal 2 nights in a row.
Leftovers.
Right? How many different, 365 days a year? Probably you had a few hundred different types of choices that the Rebbe Shalom provided you with. Me, little old me, the Rebbe Shalom is interested in satisfying my worthless desires. Yeah, that's Rebbe Shalom's chesed. That little old me, the Rebbe Shalom. So Avraham Avinu says, for me to emulate Hashem, Hashem gives every Adam kavod melachim. That's the only way. The only way to emulate Hashem is I take these 3 bnei Adam, whatever they are, and I give them lashon. I give them the tongue of a behema with chardo. No, spare ribs is not good enough. Avraham Avinu says, in order to emulate Hashem, I have to be able to give kavod melachim mamish b'miluai. And Hashem says, oh wow, you're not just doing chesed because you feel bad for people. You're doing chesed on the highest possible darga. You're emulating me. Here there's no need. Nobody needs anything. Nobody could come out. And you want there to be a situation, just like Hashem said, I created in order to be mative. You also, now, can Avraham create to be mative? No. Because look, he's still basar v'dam. He can't create an Adam to be mative. But the Rebbe Shalom says, look, I'll help you out. I'll create malachei hashares who normally are not able to eat so that you could emulate me on the highest level. Where just like I created an olam and bnei Adam for me to be mative, through your tshuka to do chesed, I will allow you, I will create for you malachei hashares able to eat so that you could emulate me on the highest level. But, I want to say chiddush. But still, did Avraham create them? Rebbeinu Shalom created them. So it's still not mamish like the hatava of Hashem. So Hashem says, there's one mitzvah in the Torah where this mitzvah, listen to this, says the Shlach HaKadosh, there are many forms of chesed. The Rebbeinu Shalom is malbish arumim, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is kover mesim, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is goyim chasadim. But which type of chesed most mimics and emulates the chesed of Hashem? Says the Shlach HaKadosh, hachnas asarchem. You know why? What's this world? This world is a big hotel. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, come, I greet you into my hotel. And in my hotel, I provide, what do you need? You need food? Okay, I'll give you, your parents will feed you. You need clothing? You'll get clothing. You need, whatever, all your needs are taken care of in this hotel. The act of chesed that most emulates the chesed of Rebbeinu Shalom is hachnas asarchem. You know why? Because in this world, says the Shlach HaKadosh, a beautiful Shlach number 30, Parshas Vayeira. This world, we're all guests. Like the Pasuk says in Yirmiyah, Ka'ireyach natalolon. We're all guests here in this world. And who's the balabayas? Chumash, Amar L'cha balabayas aseh. The balabayas is Rebbeinu Shalom. So the best way to emulate the chesed of Hashem is to bring someone into your home and to provide for their needs. That most closely reflects and emulates the chesed of Hashem. So yes, there's Bikur Chaylim and Nichama Veilim and Kvuras Mesim, but the Torah does not describe in detail any of those mitzvahs. Instead, the Torah describes in detail Hachnas Azorchim, because that's the type of chesed that most resembles the chesed of Hashem. But the Rebbeinu Shalom says, even if you do Hachnas Azorchim, there's still one thing that you can't do to emulate me fully, and that is create to be able to be meitiv. Hashem says, if you do Hachnasas Archim, you'll be zoicha to banim. That means you could bring people into the world to do chesed too, and now you could mamish emulate me on the highest darga. So maybe you could say that the reason why this is the mitzvah through which a person could be zoicha in this way is because since Hachnasas Archim most closely resembles the Chesed Hashem, and especially where do we see this? We see this from the Hachnasas Archim of Avraham Avinu, who was nitztaer, even though there were no Archim, he was nitztaer, even though nobody needed anything. Says Rebbeinu Shalom, you have reached the highest darga of a halachta b'drachav, and you're only missing one small prat. I'll seal the deal, complete. You're missing one thing. And maybe that's the reason why this mitzvah is a skula for. But I remember Rabbi Meir used to say, you have it on your sheets here, number 36, that anything you do, you go make a living, you should think, Rebbeinu Shalom takes care of people in this world, you're making money to support your family like Rebbeinu Shalom. You clean, he would say, you wash a diaper? Rebbeinu Shalom washes away our chataim. Even the most trivial things you do, it could be elevated to the highest form of Avodas Hashem. If a person thinks that they're doing it to emulate the Rebbeinu Shalom. And this is the limud of Avraham Avinu. It's not just be a nice guy, go out of your way to help your friend. We're talking on a much higher plane. This is the avenue of the halachta b'drachav, of emulating the ways the chesed of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.